What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fulltime MMA, and we are here to give our breakdown and predictions for UFC Fight Night Dern versus Xiaonan. That's right, our main event's going to be going down a strawweight contenders match between Mackenzie Dern and Xiaonan. It's going to be a good fight. We've got in the co-main event now Randy Brown versus the vet Fransisco Trinaldo. We did originally have Sodiq Yusuff taking on Giga Chikadze, but Giga had to pull out of the fight for undisclosed reasons, so we have a new co-main event. But it's still going to be a fun night of fights, as you can see. We'll jump straight into our predictions and breakdowns for this fight night, starting with the main event. We've got the Dime Piece Dern, Mackenzie Dime Piece Dern taking on Xiaonan. Mackenzie Dern is the jiu-jitsu specialist. She's 4-1 in her last 5 fights, most recently defeating Tisha Torres via split decision after losing unanimous decision to the very talented Marina Rodriguez. Xiaonan trains out of Team Alpha Male and is currently riding a 2-fight losing streak, which snapped an impressive 6-fight win streak. Her only 2 losses in the UFC have come to current champ Carla Esparza and to top contender Marina Rodriguez via split decision. This is a tough fight for me to call because I tend to lean toward the better grappler, which I believe Mackenzie Dern should be with her jiu-jitsu prowess in this fight. But Xiaonan trains out of Team Alpha Male. She's got very solid wrestling, very good defensive wrestling, so it's going to be tough for Mackenzie Dern to get this fight to the ground. And if this fight remains on the feet, which I believe it will, I believe Xiaonan will pick apart Mackenzie Dern en route to a unanimous decision, the same way, similar to the way she beat Claudia Gadelha. She had a better performance against Marina Rodriguez, and she lost to the current champion. Xiaonan, I think if she wins this fight, she's right back on track. Maybe a fight or 2 away from top contender status, and I think she will redeem herself against Mackenzie Dern in this main event. I am taking the underdog Xiaonan to take home the W. In the co-main event, we've got Randy Brown versus Fransisco Trinaldo. Randy Brown is 9-4 in the UFC, currently riding a 3-fight winning streak. 2 of his only 3 losses in the UFC are to 2 of the best welterweights in the world, Vicente Luque and Belal Muhammad, 2 of the top contenders. Fransisco Trinaldo is 18-7 at 44 years old and is currently riding a 2-fight win streak. I'm taking Randy Brown to win this fight. He's got more paths to victory. I believe he can win via KO or decision, while I don't really see Trinaldo being able to KO or submit Randy Brown in this fight, and it's unlikely he also wins a decision. I believe he could win via KO, but even that seems unlikely here for Fransisco Trinaldo. Randy Brown's only losses in the UFC have come to the best fighters, top contenders in the division, or a fluky KO by Nico Price, where Randy Brown actually had a dominant position. He was in top position and got knocked out with hammer fist from the bottom. I don't see that happening in this fight. I see Randy Brown fighting a smart fight and winning either via KO, TKO, or decision here. Moving on, we've got John Castaneda versus Daniel Santos. John Castaneda, Daniel Santos is 17 years old in this fight, guys. He turns 18 in October. He turns 18 a couple weeks after this fight, but he's actually a 17-year-old fighting in the UFC, no cap. Wait, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure. That might be on the Contender Series tonight. If that's not the truth, forget what I said, but there is a 17-year-old fighting, either on the Contender Series tonight, as I'm recording this on a Tuesday, I'm recording this on the 20th, or Daniel Santos, the young Mexican prospect. But one of these guys, either way, there is a 17-year-old fighting, which is pretty interesting. I think it might be on the Contender Series, but either way, we're jumping into John Castaneda versus Daniel Santos. John Castaneda is 2-1 in the UFC, coming off back-to-back finish wins over Eddie Wendland and Miles Johns after losing his UFC debut to the prospect Nathaniel Wood. Daniel Castaneda was 0-1 in the UFC after losing his UFC debut via unanimous decision to Julio Arce. Yeah, it's the contender. It's not this guy. It's the Contender Series fight. But I'm taking John Castaneda to win this fight. He's got more than double the fight experience, and he's fought against and beat tougher competition in his career. I'm picking John Castaneda to win here. Moving on, we've got UFC veteran Raoni Barcelos taking on Trevin Jones. Barcelos is currently riding a 2-fight losing skid, which snapped a 9-fight winning streak in the UFC 9-fight winning streak, 5 of those being in the UFC. Trevin Jones is 2-2 in the UFC, currently riding a 2-fight losing streak. This is actually sort of tough fight to call because Trevin Jones' record is deceptive. A lot of his losses are split decision. One of his wins was overturned after a positive marijuana test. The overturned win was a TKO finish over a guy who recently beat Raoni Barcelos via majority decision. So he does have a win over a guy that beat Barcelos. But MMA math does not calculate, as we are aware. And Barcelos in that fight fought to a tough split decision, while Trevin Jones actually was almost finished twice, but he weathered the storm and came back and got the finish himself, and then it was overturned. But he was actually close to being finished in that fight. So that's why, regardless of the result, you can't really take that and say, oh, Jones is going to win this fight. Raoni Barcelos has been fighting against higher level competition for a long time and having more success. I'm definitely taking Raoni Barcelos to win this fight against Trevin Jones. Next, we've got Sodiq Yusuff taking on Shainis. This fight, man, lucky it's sanctioned. Sodiq Yusuff is 5-1 in the UFC with impressive wins over UFC veterans like Gabriel Benitez, Andre Fili, and most recently Alex Caceres. He was originally scheduled to fight Giga Chikadze in the main event, as I spoke about earlier, who withdrew for undisclosed reasons. Now Yusuff will be fighting Shainis, who's making his UFC debut riding a 5-fight winning streak, but against much lower level competition, with the most recent 3 of his wins coming via first round KO TKO. So he has been finishing guys all in the first round, but he's going to be in there with a guy that's just much higher level competition. It should be a pretty easy fight for Sodiq Yusuff. Shainis has a puncher's chance, but other than that, he should get dominated in this fight. Props to him for stepping up on short notice, but he's got, I believe, little to no chance of winning this fight if he gets a lucky KO. It's the only way I see him winning this fight. But he's going against a guy who's such a high level. You don't really get to lucky KO guys that are contenders in the UFC. I believe Sodiq Yusuff is a legit top 15 contender in the featherweight division. So I don't see that happening. I'm taking Sodiq Yusuff. Next and finally, last but not least on the main card, we've got Mike Davis versus Viacheslav Borshchev. Mike Davis is 2-1 in the UFC. He was originally scheduled to face Sodiq, who withdrew from this fight, and now Mike Davis will be facing Viacheslav Borshchev, who's 1-1 in the UFC after earning his contract last year on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. I'm taking Mike Davis to win this fight. He's fought and beat higher level competition throughout his UFC career, only losing to Sodiq Yusuff and Gilbert Burns in his career. Sodiq Yusuff has proven that he's a top 15 contender. Gilbert Burns has proven he's a championship caliber fighter at the welterweight division. So the 2 guys that he's lost to are extremely high level competition, so I'm definitely taking him to win this fight. He has not shown that he'll lose to anybody except for proven UFC caliber contenders. So if that changes tonight, it may, but I think Mike Davis is the higher level fighter here, higher level competition. And with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the competitions. Let me know who you have in your picks. I'll be looking forward to it. I'm out.